Hi crafters, this is Nye with All Things Were Created. Today this video will be a tutorial for cutting out the free Valentine's Day mailbox using the Design Space software. So first thing is first, make sure that you have your software open and that you're on a brand new blank canvas. Take your mouse and come on over to the left side of your screen and scroll until you find the upload button and then click that. You will now be on this screen, which is where all of your SVGs kind of sit when you upload them into the software. Click the upload button, and then what we want to do is go and find the file that we downloaded from the website onto our device or your laptop or your computer or your tablet, whatever it is that you're using. So click Browse, and then you're going to want to go and find where you have it there. Open up that folder, and then you want to click on the file that actually has SVG written at the end. It's also the one that has that HTML icon. That's the one you want to select. It'll show up here in the file name. You can see SVG right there, and then click Open. And then Design Space will give you a preview screen where you can see all the different elements of the file. Click Upload in the lower right corner of your screen, and that will now bring it into your actual account. So you can see the file that it uploaded there, select it, and then go back over to the right corner and select Add to Canvas. And that will now bring it onto your actual canvas. And you can see once it does it that the file is another really big sized one there. I'm going to use my zoom button here just to zoom out a little bit so I can see everything. And I just want to let you know that if you decide that you want to make the mailbox a little bit smaller, right now when you bring the file into the software, it's going to create a mailbox for you that is 10 inches high by about 7 inches in width and then another 2 inches in depth. You can take the file and size it down if you want to make a smaller mailbox, but I would not go any smaller than an 8.5 height mailbox by 5 3/4 in width. If you do, when you go to add the sides of the mailbox on, you're going to see some of these little parts here of the sides popping through that front of the mailbox. So make sure that you don't size it down any smaller. And if you want to size it down, what you need to do is make sure that your padlock over here on the size button is closed. And that will now keep everything proportionate. Make sure that everything is still selected, and then come over to the corner and then just drag your mouse in or out. Okay? I'm going to click undo so I can get it back to the size that I brought it in. And that actually deleted it from my canvas. So I'm going to go back over here and just re-add it to the canvas. Okay. All right. Everything looks good. So make sure that so now we're going to get ready to cut. Make sure that the file is selected. Come over underneath layers and click ungroup once. And that will separate everything from each other as a whole. It does not separate all the different file pieces though. And we are going to now hide the pieces that we're not going to cut first. So the first 3 pieces I'm going to cut are these side panels here. So I'm just going to select the pieces here and then hide them by clicking the eyeball over here on the layers panel. So just select them all, and I think I'm just going to scroll it through it this way. So I'm going to use the scroll bar over here. It'll be a little faster. So the heart I'm going to hide, this doorknob for the mailbox I'm going to hide. I'm going to hide the hearts that are in the center there by clicking that eyeball and hiding the mail flap. And then the last piece looks like it's the front of the mailbox. And that's it. So I'm going to scroll back up towards the top so I can see these side panels. And then I'm going to select one and come back over to the layers panel. And where I see the lines, I'm going to select those lines in the layer, select the line layer. And then I'm going to come over to operations, click that drop down menu right here, and then click score. And I can see that it changed those straight lines to now a dashed line, which means that it's going to score it for me. I'm going to select that middle one. It highlighted it in my layers panel. Find those line layers, that line layer, and select it. And then click score underneath the operations panel. And I can see that it changed it. And I'm going to select the last one, select the line layer, and then go back over to operations and select score. And that changed it as well. Then I'm going to select all three of them by just dragging my mouse and creating a box there to select all three. Right click inside that box and then click attach. And I can see that it attached because it shows it up here at the top of my layers panel. And I'm going to click make it. And my map preview screen now shows all three of those side panels. I can see the dashed lines, which means that it's going to score. And I can also see that it says score over here at the left part of my screen, also with basic cut. And I'm going to click continue. And wait for my computer here to connect. If you've been following it, you know it takes a while. Okay, so now I'm ready. I'm going to use the cardstock 80-pound cut setting. I already have my mat loaded with a 12 by 12 inch red cardstock. It's in my machine, and I'm going to press go, and I'll meet you back on the canvas, and then we'll cut out the next part, okay? So I'm back on my canvas now. The side panels cut out beautifully. What I'm ready to do now is I'm going to select the side panels and then come over to the left part of my screen, and I'm going to click this undo button. And now what I like to do is after I cut something, I like to delete it because sometimes I've accidentally cut things twice and I don't like to waste my cardstock. So I'm going to select all three of these pieces and then I'm going to click my delete button. The next part that I'm going to cut out will be the front of the mailbox. So I'm going to use my scroll panel over here on the right of my with my layers and scroll down until I see that mailbox front. And I can see it there. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to click. In fact, you know what I might do? I'm going to select that one to unhide it and the back of the mailbox to unhide that. And I'm going to click make it. And this will now set up two mats for me, the front and the back. I can see it here. So this means what I'm going to use now is 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 red cardstock. I'm going to load one in my machine, and when that one pops out, I'm just going to load the next part, and it's going to cut the front and the back of my mailbox. I can see that it's going to do basic cut here on the first mat and a basic cut on the second mat. If I click it, I can see both mats, okay? So that's good to go. I'm going to click continue and wait for my computer to connect. It's going to cut on the 80-pound cardstock setting. My machine is already loaded with my first mat, and I already am going to prepare another one. Remember, both mats are going to be using 8.5 by 11 red cardstock. So I'm going to press go, and then I'll meet you back on the canvas and we'll cut the next part. Okay, so now I'm back on my canvas. I cut the front and the back of the mailbox, no problem. I'm just going to select both of these now and then just once again delete them from my canvas so I don't accidentally cut them again. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to cut the door of the mailbox next. So I'm going to scroll back up towards the top because that's where I last saw that front of the mailbox. There it is. I'm going to click on the eyeball to unhide it. And I am also going to cut out the doorknob. So I'm going to find that here. And I'm going to click the eyeball to unhide it. And let's see, what else can I cut next? Can I do something else at the same time? I think I can do the mailbox flap. So I can see it here. It says mail. I'm going to click this eyeball to unhide it. And This is also grouped together with the red part of the mail and then the flap beneath it. I'm going to come over to the layers panel again, and I'm going to ungroup that, and I'm going to hide the white flap here. And that is all I'm going to be able to cut now on this sheet here. Yes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit by pressing my zoom buttons just so I can see everything. And I'm going to begin just to smush these pieces up towards the top of my screen. I'm going to put this one right there. I'm going to cut this again on an 8.5 by 11 piece of red cardstock. So I'm just going to line them up so that way they cut. I'm going to click the door because this also has score lines. So I'm going to click the big square, the door. I'm going to come over to my layers panel and find those lines, click that line layer, and then go back over to the operations menu and then click score. And I can see the dashed lines, which means that it did change. I'm going to click the small knob box of the mailbox, select that. And then I'm also going to find the lines layer and click those lines layer, and then go back over to operations and click the drop down menu and then click score. And so once again, that changed to dash the lines. I'm going to grab this box and just move it over just a tad bit more so it doesn't get bumped off at the edge of my 8.5 cardstock there. Now I'm going to select all three of these elements by taking my mouse and creating that box, and then right-clicking in that box and selecting attach. And then I'm going to click, well, let's make sure that, okay, it did attach. I can see it here at the top of my layers panel. And I'm going to click make it. And everything looks good here. See, it's right at the edge, but I think it'll be okay. I can see that my score lines are there on both the door and the knob. I can see over here on the left part of my screen that it says score and basic cut. So I'm going to go ahead and load my light blue mat with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of red cardstock. I'm going to click continue and wait for my machine to connect. I don't know how to speed up this process here for the videos. It's really just taking its good old time. Okay, there it goes. So I'm still cutting this on the 80-pound cardstock setting. My machine is loaded with my red cardstock. I'm going to hit go, and then I'll meet you back on the canvas for the next cut. Okay, so it cut perfectly, which is great because that box was right at the edge, but it worked. So I'm going to select now the elements. I'm going to come up to the undo button and click that. Then I'm going to again select all the elements by dragging a box, and I'm going to delete them so I don't cut them again. And what I'm left with now to cut are all the hearts, which I'm actually going to do on glitter cardstock. But before we cut that part, we're going to cut out the embellishments on the mailbox, the white embellishment. So I found that here on my layers panel. I'm going to click the eyeball to unhide it. I'm going to drag it and bring it over here just a little bit. And then the flap of the mailbox is also white. I'm going to click the eyeball to unhide that. And again, just pick it up and drag it over here so that way they'll cut close together. I can also see that the flap of the mailbox has score lines that need to be changed. So I'm going to select the flap and then come back over to the layers panel and click those lines. Then go back to the operations panel and click that drop down menu and click score. And I can see the dashed line, so I know that it changed. I'm going to take my mouse, create that box again to select both of those elements. Right click inside that box and then click attach. I can see that it attached here on my layers panel. I'm going to click make it, and I'm going to do this on the mat here by just selecting that and confirming. And I can see it there. This is just going to use a white 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. If you have a scrap piece of cardstock that will fit this measurement, go ahead and use that. Don't cut a brand new piece of 8.5 by 11. Use what you have that's already left over, because you really don't need that much here. And then I can see that it's going to score over here on the left part of my menu. And it's also going to do the cut. I'm going to click continue and wait for that connection once more. Oh. Okay, there it goes. Once again, I'm going to be cutting on the 80-pound cardstock setting. My white cardstock is already loaded. I'm going to press go, and then I'll meet you back at the canvas for the last cut, which will just be all the hearts. Okay, so I'm back on my canvas. I finished cutting the flap and the white embellishment that's going to go at the top of the mailbox. I'm going to select the elements on my canvas, and then I'm going to come back up here and click the undo button to unattach them. And then I'm going to select them both again, and then just use my delete button on my computer and delete them. And so what I'm left with now are all of the hearts. So I'm going to come back up to the top and click the eyeballs just to unhide these. And then this group of hearts, they are grouped together. So I'm going to ungroup them by clicking the ungroup button. And now everything is free. I can scroll and see that. And I'm going to use some glitter cardstock for these hearts. It'll just add a little bit of pizzazz to the front of the mailbox, but you can feel free to use whatever color of hearts that you want. If you want to use glitter cardstock, that's great. You could probably even use foil cardstock. Have fun with the hearts and how you want to add your own creative flair to the front of the mailbox. So I'm going to take them and just move them over according to how I want them to cut. So all of these red ones here, I'm going to have them be one color. So I'm just going to smush them in here. And then the little pink ones are all going to be one color as well. So I'm going to bring them up there. And then this one I'm going to use for the actual knob of the door, that little box that we cut. So that's going to go by itself, and I'm going to put that one here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my cardstock, and I'm going to lay it out on my mat so that way it matches exactly how I've laid out the hearts here. So I will cut a white glitter cardstock that will be about 3 inches by 3 inches, and I'll place it in this corner of my mat. I will cut a red glitter cardstock that will be about probably 3 inches by 3 inches again, and I'll put it there so that way these red hearts will cut. And then I will use pink glitter cardstock, and I will cut that probably at about 2 inches by 2 inches, and then just put it there on my cardstock. And then for the knob, I'm going to use a silver. I'm going to put that one right here and just cut out that little piece from my silver cardstock and place it there on my mat. And so that looks good. I'm going to once again take a box and select all of these items by dragging my mouse across my screen. I'm going to right click in the box that was formed and then select attach. And then I'm going to click, I can see that it attached here in my layers panel, and then I'm going to click make it. And I can see everything. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause here for a second, and I'm going to set up my cardstock on my mat to make sure that it matches what's on my screen here. So I'm going to pause it really quick just to do that. Okay, so I set up my mat so that way the cardstock on my mat so it matches what's on my screen. This is just a cut layer. I can see the cut here, and I'm going to click continue and wait again for my computer to connect here. I have set my machine to custom because I wanted to cut on glitter cardstock. I've loaded it in, so I'm going to select it, and I've loaded my mat in my machine. So all I need to do now is press go and it will cut. And so that concludes this part of the video, and I will meet you at the table and in the next video for the assembly of the mailbox. Okay? Thanks so much for following along.